Please, quiet the mob. In Japan, they have a category called Living National Treasure. It's their way of honoring great artists and valued human individuals. We should have that here, and my guest would be one of them. Did I mention that I'm Dick Cavett? The great sports writer Red Smith called my guest tonight the first gentleman of fist fighting. He is the legendary boxing trainer Ray Arcel, whose boxing memories date incredibly back at least as far as 1916 when he saw Jack Dempsey fight. Ray Arcel has worked in the corner of such champions as Benny Leonard, Barney Ross, Tony Zale, Ezzard Charles, Roberto Duran, to name a handful. And at the age of 91, he is prominently featured in two new books. By coincidence, came out at the same time. In this corner by Dave Anderson of the New York Times, and a book called Corner Men by Ron Freed. I happen to mention that one because he happens to be the producer of this program. And he's so fair that he insisted I mention both books. Anyway, Ray Arcel, welcome, and nice to see you once again. Can you recreate for us your first boxing memory? I think it was Dempsey.
Yes.
Yeah.
We used to hang around in a barber shop on 111th Street and Lenox Avenue, New York, and the man who owned the barber shop was John Reisler.
Yeah.
And he was a boxing promoter, and he ran the Harlem Sporting Club. And he used to talk about the great fighter he brought from the coast. And he's talking about Jack Dempsey. Well, none of us knew anything about Jack Dempsey at that particular time. Sure. And I was just a high school boy going, this 1916 I'm talking about. That's quite a few years ago. So Harlem Sporting Club you could get into. The admission was $25.
Wow.
So one time gang of us decided, well, we're going to go up and see this guy, Jack Dempsey. Who is he? Well, this is the third fight he had in New York City.
Yeah.
And he boxed a big black boy by the name of John Lester Johnson. That was the third fight he had.
Yeah.
In those years, there was no decision given after a fight. There were no decision fights.
You just fought the fight and went home.
Just when you were through with the fight, you just walked out of the ring. The newspaper men actually gave the decision as they saw it.
Yeah.
So we went up and we looked at Jack Dempsey, and well, he was just another fighter. I didn't know too much about boxing in those years, but I was interested in it. And he was a well-built man, and we liked his style, but he didn't impress any of us. And this
How do you account for that? That's amazing.
Well, I talked to Dempsey later on about it. I was in Los Angeles in 1925, and he owned a restaurant and a hotel, and we stayed at the hotel. And at that time, he had just married Estelle Taylor.
The film actress? The actress?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I asked him one day, I said, I remember you boxing in New York in 1916. He said, don't remind me of that. He said, that was one of the worst trips I ever made. He was discouraged, and he wanted to get away from Colorado. And as we used to be around in the saloons, and he was a saloon fighter. And he told me he was just discouraged. He'd walk in there and just wanted to go through the paces. And for 10 rounds, he got the big sum of $18. So after the third fight, which I saw, didn't impress me much, he got on a train and went back home. And then he met up with Jack Kearns and went out to California, and he started his career.
He started to become Jack Dempsey.
And I always felt, in my own personal opinion, that the Jack Dempsey who fought Willard might have been given credit as the best heavyweight there was.
Would it be polite to ask you the big question, how would he have fared against Muhammad Ali in his prime?
Dempsey?
Yeah.
I think Dempsey would have beaten almost anyone.
Even Ali?
Even Ali.
Wow.
There might be a doubt as far as Joe Louis was concerned.
Really?
Joe Louis was a great fighter.
Yeah.
Muhammad Ali was outstanding, but he was a victim of circumstances. Don't forget, he had a layoff of 3 years.
Yes, unjustly.
And unjustly is right. And of course, when he made the comeback, boxing is a sport where you cannot lose your coordination. You can't, your reflexes are not sharp enough.
Yeah.
And
Even a super athlete, 3 years off can be devastating.
you must
Yeah.
be able to see every second of the fight.
You're famous for having to keep your fighters in trim, keep them from eating, keeping them out of whorehouses, keeping them out of, did I say that? Keeping them out of all kinds of places.
Are you telling me or reminding me?
And I guess it's no secret that you're part of the reason you're 91 years old and as fit as a man of well-preserved 60
Yes.
is that you ran with your own fighters.
I
You
did.
everything they did. You lived a clean life and tried to get them to do that. Who were your notable
You have to remember
failures?
that no two people are alike,
Yeah.
and each fighter was different. His style was different, his thinking was different, and you had to know and understand each individual in order to be able to condition them.
Mm-hmm.
Because there were some men that could take a lot of work, and there were some people who couldn't.
Yeah.
And you had to know just how to handle these men, because it was your responsibility to condition them. And it was very easy to overtrain them, and it was very easy to do the wrong thing for them.
Does a fighter think in the ring?
The highest form of individualism, and if you don't think, you're lost. You have to think.
Yeah. That's something you always emphasized.
That's right.
I mean, we often think of fighters as not too strong upstairs.
Well, you'd be surprised how strong they really are. Because once you keep after them to look and understand and know everything they're supposed to do, then it becomes second nature to them.
Yeah.
It's like you learning a trade, and you have somebody showing you and telling you, then you become adjusted mentally and physically to handle the job.
Picking up on Dempsey, you said that in his prime, when he stepped into a ring, it was like seeing a tiger let loose that was about to...
Well, the Dempsey that
it.
fought Willard, I think, was one of the greatest heavyweights I've ever seen.
I have to interrupt you, Ray. We have to take a break, but we'll be right back. Stay with us. The great Ray Arcel is with us.